In their current weak state, if cattle lay down for too long, their limbs become useless. They are then unable to stand and they'll die.
So hi there, it's Dieter again from Friesland, and this is my climate change cattle cow dying Australia dilemma content video number 3. And as you see, these cattle are really dried out as the whole Queensland agricultural land is becoming and is getting a desert like the things in the Gulf states and in Syria and other countries. And Syria also has this war problem until now. And so it's even hurting them more that also desertification is on the rise there. And it's the same thing according to desertification and droughts and a changing climate, whatever the reason is for that change. The climate is changing, so people there need to act.
Yeah, because she can't get away. She's not strong enough.
And the things I've suggested, and I didn't see this video before, they already do. I mean, they have to reduce the amounts of cows because the cows are simply dying, and so they reduce the number of cows, and so they are in this spiral of debt, and they need to buy food in a huge amount. I wouldn't do so. I would simply have reduced the number of cows before. But anyway, I mean, if I would be a farmer there, I might have been, and there might be also other reasons not to reduce the herds. If you cannot sell the meat, you need to dry the meat, and you need to get to store the meat. If you have to kill the cows, then if the cow market is overloaded with cows, because others also have to sell cows, and Australia has made a ban on cow exports. And so this is another factor why my idea in the first 2 videos could not be realized then.
And her end result will be death very soon.
Disguised as a luxury hotel on a lush mountain of tea.
And now I have for error changed my channel, and anyway, so I cannot really watch this Al Jazeera thing on the further ongoing because I mispressed a button on my remote control then. Anyway, so if I would try to assume to discuss this in an emulation of solutions, what would I say to the Australian farmers and to my Christian brothers who deny that the climate is changing, or well, normally no person can deny that the climate is changing, but the reason for that may be discussable and a dispute then. To finish these 2 videos, I may simply also go to the internet and watch Al Jazeera's YouTube channel, video content, because they upload their shows and their episodes of 1-on-1 East, 1-to-1 East, 1-on-1 East, 1-to-1 East. Anyway, it's a long year, well-known format and show on Al Jazeera, and so I can analyze this content later on if I want. So, well, and if you sit here in good old Germany and you don't have any problems with drought at all, by the way, we have problems with less and less amount of rain in Germany too then. But normally I would say, well, I need to get my ass and move to Australia and need to use my hands and my brain and my mouth to help them, and not to quack, quack, quack around here in Germany, because it's easy to talk, it's easy to discuss the things these people in need already have discussed and thought and prayed and cried through all day long the last month and years. And also they had a very sad old lady there who has to shoot one cattle after the other. And if you see these people, they're really, I mean, they have lived the whole life on their farm, and so they see the whole life rinning through their hands like the now desertificated sand, or the dry sand of their own land. And so they see everything is running through their hand. I don't know if this is the English expression if sand is running through your hands. If you take the light sand into your hands, it's It's running through your hands to the ground again. Same thing with your money, with everything you own then, and so you don't even have the possibility to sell the cows early enough because you don't get any revenue because the market is filled up with cow and cattle meat. Because Australia at that point of time, and that's what I didn't know, had banned the export of meat, and so in the end the Australian farmers also pay a price for their mass cow overload production, and so they may even see that this is also in parts their own fault, because they could have done and could have acted different to the country and to the land which is given to them. On the other side, if the market demands the meat, why not producing as much as possible? And so I wouldn't blame them for that. And also another thing is, the more cattle, the more dry, the less green things grow, and so you may have stopped earlier before the cattle export ban have come, and so people also may really have made mistakes in overusing their land, which is given to them, from my viewpoint, if they're Christians, from God. And so and I don't want to accuse them, because normally people, they act rationally and they act responsibly if they're Christians, also in their own interest, because they see that it's getting drier and drier and drier every year, so they don't want to over cattle use the things on their land, and so they don't how do you say in English, if there are too many cattle on too less hectare ground you own. And so people will have acted and will have done responsibly in most cases, and so it's a big shame. I mean, it's a big shame for them, and it's a big shame because the Australian Agricultural Department, I guess, is not really helpful then if they ban, for whatever reason, the export of meat. And so how can you kill the cows then? And is it possible to dry the meat? And is it even somehow limiting the loss of the cattle farmers then if they dry the meat, if they kill the cow, if they cannot sell it and cannot export it? How can they sell it at all if they have to kill before the cows are getting too weak and too dried out? And so they lose, because the meat quality is going down the drier the cow is, the smaller the cow is. And so they cannot even reduce the whole herd not to overeat the less green things growing there, and not to kill down too much green plants, and by that being in the spiral of dry and drought, dry seasons, not much rain, and less green, and then more drought is causing more desertification, and so on and so on. So you are in the spiral of African Sahara desertification things. The same principle then in Queensland. And so you cannot escape if you don't reduce radically your hurdle at the right point of time, and if you don't act and store the water if it's raining at all, or if you get it out of the morning air, if it's somehow wheat. No, not wheat, but wet, somehow water-containing morning air, if you like. And so if you don't get the water then out of this air, and if it's dry, and if there is a long year drought without any rain at all, even the amount of water in the air in the morning is not enough to get it out with some special humus sand, which Gulf countries and Arabic desert nations use to get some water out of the air and to somehow have some kind of green water extraction out of the natural surrounding without deep ground drilling for water. And I doubt it would make sense to drill down the sand and to get some water out of the ground, because the groundwater level will be very low, because this would be the natural, logical solution you come to in the first place, because, well, no German crazy farm son which has grown up on a farm needs to tell a farmer in Australia or an American farmer or whomever how to feed cattle with water and how to give drink to cows when they don't have anything to eat. I mean, it's normal that you want to get the water out of the ground then, and so you think about drilling, and so this is not a very creative, innovative idea then. And so for that reason, the groundwater level will be very, very low, and so this possibility would never have given then to the farmers there. And also, it's costly to drill. You need the big machines if you want to go very deep, if you find water at all. And if you cannot store it because it's not raining at all, you only can radically reduce the amount of cattle when it's possible. And then if you cannot sell the meat, you have to dry it, or you have to cool it down, or you have to pack it somewhere. You have to conservate it, if you like, so that you can sell it later on with a loss, I guess, always with a loss, because fresh meat always is more money resulting than other things. And so you need to change your farming style. And who loves and who is a experienced farmer, the people, farmers normally don't like to change their way of acting if they have done so the whole of their life, and the whole of their life in centuries. So the fathers of the fathers have done so over 3-4 generations. So you don't change it normally so easily. And so you're caught in this debt trap, and the banks are not helpful. They sometimes even have very, very bad intentions then. They don't help because they don't want to help, because they want to get the ground, because they want to use this debt spiral. And somehow would even say, some people would even say, the complicit thing in this is the Australian government connected with interest groups who want to get to the ground of the farmers who use the agricultural land and who buy it, and who possibly think they will find minerals there, or they may use it for different purpose, or when it's getting more rain later on. So the banks have an interest in taking the land away from the farmers, even if they know the drought is there, and even if there is no minerals in the ground. They simply have an interest in, well, they have not a pure helping heart. The banks are not pure and helpful in a good intention, working in the interest of the Australian agricultural farming industry. And that it is an industry is a problem in itself. And so even somehow the people pay a price for their mass farm production, even if the cows run around and if they're not in stables, and so they have a humane nature surrounding them, which is good for the meat and good for the quality of the meat and so on. But still, maybe in a way you pay a price for it now, because the possibility to have so much cows is taken away. And if you don't take it away from yourself early enough, in the places where the desert and the drought is not so big, you will have the same result in some years in other parts of Australia and of America too, I guess, and of Argentina and of Northern Africa under any circumstance too. And this is the same problem in every part of the world where the desert is growing. And so how, for example, is China fighting the drought problem, the changing climate, and for whatever the reason is? And is it even possible to use these special humus then would be one of the questions. Is it possible to dry meat if you have to kill the cows to help urgently, and so you dry the meat somewhere? Is that possible? To do it rationally, to do it, not rationally, but to do it with at least some benefit, with not too much work, because it's also a work question then. The people, they don't lie around and in Germany we say, and die drehen keine Däumchen. They don't waste their life and time. They have, farmers normally, they have a working week of 85 hours a week, if so less hours are enough. And so, not if so less hours, but if so few hours are, if they don't work much more. And excuse my bad stumbling English then. And so, what do you think about that? Diversify these ideas. And well, as a Christian, what can I say? I mean, I can only pray that farmers will get out of that mess and will learn in a way their lessons and the lessons of the changed circumstances. And it sounds a little bit brutal, but people need to change, and it is brutal. They need to change their way of producing things, and they need to radically change their understanding of how they can use and how this can be good for them. And they need to accept the changed surrounding. And if they later on will have more cattle, this may be good for them. But maybe they even would change their production method, so they will not have so much cows, because then the risk is not so high if the next drought is coming. And so if the market is changing or the prices are changing, and the problem is if you produce higher quality meat, you need to buy new herds. You have to, if you start a completely different kind of, so if you change the production method with higher price meat, if you can do so, it's good, and if you cannot do so, how do you get out of the mess then if there are so many cows available? So many people have to sell so many cows because the drought is big, and then the market is filled for other reasons too, so that people cannot get rid of their meat at all, and so many vicious circle to escape, and sometimes even one vicious circle too much, and so that's the way it is. And I hope many farmers will not end in the cities, but will find a different way to produce different things. Maybe they switch from cattle to other things, and be blessed here from Germany, and hope God is helping, and you act responsibly to the cows and the things which are still given or given to you.